All right, let's talk about the floods here before we get to everything else. But again, this is the main game. David Elliott is the Emergency Services Minister in New South Wales, and he joins us now. David, what is the most urgent issue at the moment? Is it what's happening as a result of Warragamba Dam? Is it the issues on the mid-north coast? Can you try to rank urgency for me?
Well, it depends where you are. In the mid-north coast, they are looking at a 1 in 100 year flood. It was 19 to 29 that some of those communities saw the flood levels that they are at the moment. Of course, in the Nepean and the Hawkesbury districts, they've got to double down because they've got the excessive water coming out of Warragamba Dam, as well as the rain, which will probably continue for at least the next 48 hours. And of course, there is the north coast of New South Wales, where much of those communities are suffering isolation, and they'll need to make sure they get to one of the evacuation centres.
How nerve-wracking is nighttime in an operation like this, when water is obviously already hard to try to predict, but when we start to throw darkness on top of it, the ability to see people getting too close to it becomes a lot harder. How concerning are the people who brief you about what happens at night?
Well, it is the great unknown when we don't have that natural light. It's the great unknown for those who want to travel through floodwaters and don't realise how wide maybe those floodwaters are. And it's the great unknown for those 1,500 SES volunteers that are out there right now, making sure that our families are safe. And that's why we've actually said to people, just defer unnecessary travel. Make sure that if you don't need to be in a car, particularly in these areas which have been declared disaster areas, well then don't go anywhere. And 94 schools have been closed tomorrow for a reason, and people may need to consider working from home again.
It is always extraordinary that we are able to move this human volunteer army at a moment's notice. There'll be some reinforcements which come from here in Queensland and also South Australia in the next little while. Frankly, this is the Australia that we all hope to exist. In the past year or so, we've had a lot of lines and fights between states, but it is amazing how people drop everything to help people they've never met.
It's probably the bright part of my job, particularly in this high tempo of operations that we've got at the moment. And you're right. I mean, there's 10,000 people in the SES. It seemed within a blink of the eye. 1,500 of them were deployed over the course of the weekend. Many of them will be taking leave tomorrow. That's one of the reasons why we make these declarations, to protect their employment. And I'm very grateful that the other states, South Australia, Victoria, Queensland, Mark Ryan from Queensland, my counterpart, different party, but he's always on the phone straight away offering help, and I said to him, I'm very grateful, and I might even holiday in Queensland again one day. And tomorrow you can expect tomorrow that there'll be a reach out to the ADF, who have always been ready and willing to come and assist us.
All right, I know it only gets harder from here, but also I've got to ask about that reporting that was around about an apparent issue between yourself and the Water Minister about exactly when water was starting to be released from Warragamba Dam. Is that true, that there was a dispute about whether it was being left too late?
Paul, I'm not going to get into a blame game or finger pointing while there are 1,500 SES volunteers out there. But my first job, as you well know, is as member for Baulkham Hills. And that's why, since I've been elected, I've said make sure that when it comes to floods, particularly in northwestern Sydney, where it appears there's so much growth and we're always been vulnerable, we want to make sure we mitigate. We're never going to eliminate, but we can always mitigate. If we were going to eliminate, well, then we would have listened to Mr Flannery and we would have made sure it doesn't rain again. But we can mitigate. We can make sure that we have the minimal risk as possible without obviously throwing away the proverbial baby with the bathwater.
All right. Appreciate it, Minister. We'll talk again the next couple of days, mate.
Thanks,
all the best
Paul.
to everyone
Thank
who's
you.
on the front line.